We're going to be doing our project on women's roles throughout history. We're going to start from the 1800s and then we're going to go to now. Beginning in the early 1800s, women were frowned upon for being single. In the beginning, they were controlled by their fathers, and then once they got married, they were then controlled by their husbands. Women weren't allowed to own property. They couldn't own anything to their name. They couldn't have a job. They just weren't allowed to. So the husband owned everything. I found this clip, and it's just a pure example of what women had to go through. The wife says, "John, where's the rest of your wages? How am I going to pay the landlord and buy food for the children?" The husband says, "Shut up. What I do with my money is none of your business." So that just exemplifies what women had to go through and that they had no power, even if it was to benefit their family. In the mid-1800s, women got so tired of being oppressed, so they decided to form protest. White women were protesting for equality and rights for themselves, but also women of color were protesting not only for equality, but for their race. The white women saw the women of color and said that it was not a traditional lifestyle and that they would not support it. It's really interesting because women should be supporting other women no matter what. If you're standing up for something, it's out of your traditional life, then why can't they? Women started taking jobs outside of the home if they were not married. If they were married, they had to stay home and take care of the children and take care of the house. If they were not married, they would take jobs such as teaching, nursing, and cooking. In the late 1800s, with the start of the Industrial Revolution, more doors opened for women. Public schools began to expand, so more women got teaching opportunities. Nursing was also becoming a very high regarded job for women. More schools started to admit girls. Girls made up of 1/3 of the student population in the United States of America. According to Connor Prairie, by 1860, it was almost as likely for a white girl as a white boy to attend school, even in farming regions of the country. That was huge. Girls were able to go get an education and take their time, but white girls were allowed to school, but they were still separated from the boys in fear that they would lose their feminine qualities. In the early 1900s, women in the home who were married were still taking care of the family, still taking care of the chores and the laundry and the cooking and the cleaning and the children while the men were at work. Laws prevented married women from joining the labor force. Women were trapped in bad marriages because of their dependence on men to survive economically. In the early to mid 1900s, the Depression era occurred. There was an influx of married women in the workplace to help counteract their husband's loss of employment or deployment to the war. Women were needed to work in the workplace because men were gone, and the Depression was bad, so they needed people to work. By 1920, women finally got the right to vote. It was a very big moment. During World War II, posters and propaganda were produced of glamour women in the workplace to motivate women to serve their country as a part of the home front labor force. Rosie the Riveter is one of the most iconic posters that shows that women can do any job that a man can do. They wanted women to come in and work. Women learned valuable skills in the workplace that they hadn't learned before. Women served dangerous roles in the military, building weapons and combat gear. Women learned what they called men work. But after World War II, women were forced to go back to their families. Married women weren't allowed to work still, and everything went kind of back to where it was before. The nuclear family structure caused by the governmental freedom, the ultimate fulfillment in the home. This is the ideal picture of the perfect family, a husband, a wife, children, how things, what they thought were supposed to be. Women's rights took a step back because they were able to work during the war, but now they had to go back home to their families and they couldn't work anymore. So women put their careers aside. In the late 1900s, there were more equal employment opportunities. women weren't so financially dependent on men, there was an increased divorce rate and more female breadwinners. Women were so tired of people telling them what they can and can't do. And so they found freedom when they were able to taste that little bit after World War II of being able to make a living by themselves. So women got divorces because they thought that that's the only way that they can make money for themselves without feeling trapped. Women also turned away from childbearing, and there was a mass distribution of birth control. Moving on to the 21st century, present day, women have more opportunity than ever before, and our roles at home are expanding with it. Today, women can run for president, work her way up the corporate ladder, acquire a doctoral or professional degree, and so much more. We are seeing more women and men of all ages splitting the bill and taking equal responsibility for dating. In many ways, the concept of courtship has changed altogether with apps such as Bumble, which requires the women to act as the pursuer. With technology, the spread of ideas and information has been accelerated, and we find that more parents are teaching their children open-mindedness and life skills that are atypical for their gender. Roles are not always determined by the husband or social norms, but in a healthy relationship. The best parts of the present day is it encouraged to be yourself and assert your position in the world. But while we've demonstrated massive transformations in role equality since the 19th century, there's still room for improvement. As we come closer to equality in gender roles, we are currently experiencing a transition period into which a mother or wife frequently takes care of a spouse, home, and children on top of this new expectation to help bring in money. While men have, and in some cases still have, the luxury of relaxing when they get home from work, the same is not always being experienced by women. Women frequently experience a sort of second shift when they return home, in which they cook, clean, help the children. It is for this reason that stress levels in working women are 50% higher than working men of the same age. While we are seeing situations in which there is a healthy balance of duties shared between two married people, we are still seeing some men raised to believe that their duties is to provide, fix things, mow the lawn, and more. It's the wife's responsibility to do the rest. We are seeing more single or stay-at-home fathers. However, it's more likely to be the opposite. Oftentimes, women are expected to be the one to take on the role of carrying the children and paying less attention to their work. For this reason, that most mothers are not able to climb the ladder in their careers due to having to pass up the promotion opportunities. So today, while we as women can indulge in our personal goals for achievement, our roles in the household remain pretty consistent with history. Fortunately, we are in an upward trajectory, but ultimately, in order to achieve a fair and healthy balance of family, it is important for us to continue to teach our youth and that gender roles are outdated by demonstrating that the household responsibilities of cleaning, cooking, parenting, and working should be shared between everyone. What roles each individual may prefer varies from person to person, but it is a discussion that we should be allowed to have. In conclusion, women have come a long way throughout history, but there's still more to go. We need to push ourselves and do whatever we want to do. Don't feel like just because you're a woman, you have to do a certain thing. If you don't want children, you don't have to have children. If you don't want to get married, you don't have to get married. And I think that's important for us to understand.